Welcome to the Starter Girls Podcast, your ultimate source of inspiration and empowerment. We're here to help women succeed in every area of their lives: career, money, relationships, and health and well-being, while celebrating the remarkable journeys of individuals from all walks of life who've achieved amazing things. Whether you're looking to supercharge your career, build financial independence, nurture meaningful relationships, or enhance your overall well-being, the Starter Girls Podcast is here to guide you. Join us as we explore the journeys of those who dare to dream big and achieve greatness. I'm your host, Jennifer Loading, and welcome to this episode. Welcome to another episode of the Starter Girls Podcast. Wherever you are tuning in today, we are so thrilled to have you. I'm your host, Jennifer Loading. I'm so excited about my guest today. This is going to be so much fun. Before I bring her on, I do want to give you guys just a little quick how we met, because I think this is fun. And it is not like our normal, I will say this. One of the things that I love about Starter Girls is that we get to do whatever we want here. And this show is all about inspiring specifically women, although we have a lot of men that listen to this show, but so I say everybody, but inspiring people to live their best lives. And one of the beauties of that is that we can bring people from all walks of life on here to share their journeys and their stories and what's working for them and the challenges that they've gone through. And so I'm so excited about my guest today because I think she's a remarkable woman. But let me tell you how I met her. It's a funny story. So we're part-time pet sitters, and Alyssa contacted me one day because she was trying to put a video together. She's an influencer. She was trying to put a video together. And it was the funniest request because I get this and I'm like, you want me to come over and do a video? And I'm like, this is so ironic in the same sense because this is what I do. And so I messaged her back and I said, okay, well, we couldn't do it that day because I had something going on. So we planned it for the next day. But while I was looking at her, looking at following her feed and looking at what she was doing, I'm like, hey, I have a podcast and we need to get you on my show. And so this is how this all came about. And so you guys are going to get to meet her in just a few minutes. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about her. But before I do that, we do need to do a quick shout out to our sponsor. This episode is brought to you by Walt Mills Productions. Need to add excitement to your YouTube videos or some expert hands for editing? Look no further. Walt Mills is the solution you've been searching for. Walt is not only your go-to guy for spicing up content, he's the force behind a thriving film production company with numerous titles in the pipeline. Always on the lookout for raw talent, Walt is eager to collaborate on film and internet productions. With a background deeply rooted in entertainment and promotion, Walt Mills leverages years of skills to give you the spotlight you deserve. Want to learn more about Walt and his work? Head on over to waltmillsproductions.net and let your content shine. All right. And with that, let me tell you about my guest today. So Alyssa Cleland, she is an amputee, which makes her remarkable. One of the things that I think is so neat about her, and we're going to talk about this today, is her just realness, her rawness, her authenticity. She has an Instagram page and she's got a pretty extensive following on there. And she said that she started her whole page kind of to document her para-dressage. And so she's going to talk about that because I didn't even know what that was. I had to look that up to find out. But she is a cat mom, 2 cats. I've met her cat babies, and she is a fun girl, and she's doing great things and just a lot of remarkable things out there. And so I want to welcome her to the show. So Alyssa, welcome to the Starter Girls Show.
Jennifer, thank you for having me on. And I think it's just crazy that we met the way that we did. And now I'm on your podcast and it's just kind of all working out, which is so fun because I could have met anyone off of the pet sitting. And so I think this is amazing.
I know. Isn't it funny? And we live around the corner from each other right now, which is, I know you're going to be moving back to your hometown soon, but I know us being around the corner, it's kind of cool. And, you're right. I think sometimes there are reasons, I always believe there are reasons that things happen in our lives, and anybody could have, you could have filled out that request for somebody and anybody could have popped up on there. What's the odds that you find a person who has a podcast? And this is what I do in my work. And we both are kind of influencers in different ways. Right. And so yeah, I think there's no accidents in the way that people come together. And so I'm glad that we've had that opportunity. I'm glad that you're going to get to come on here and talk about your story and what you're doing. So it'll be fun.
Well, I'm excited. Thank you for allowing me the space to do that.
Absolutely. All right. So let's talk about Alyssa a little bit because you've got a lot of things going on. I want to take it back because right now somebody looking you up, kind of like you did me. You just sent me your Instagram tag and you said, like, I'm a real person because this was such a funny request. And I'm like, is this real or not? I got to go look at this girl, right? So you send me your Instagram handle and I go on there and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like a legit girl. And you're an amputee and you're living your life and you're doing your thing and you've got this huge, like not a little following, you've got this pretty good sized following of people that are watching you day in and day out. So walk us through that. Tell us a little bit about how that came about for you.
Yeah, so it started about 8 years ago. It'll be 8 years on April 16th. And I started it because I had quit my job. I was working at a hospital. I was in school to, I was pre-med. I wanted to be a doctor. And it just wasn't what I wanted to do anymore. And so I quit my job. I've always had a passion for horses and riding. I've been riding since I was a kid. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to do something with this. And so I started my Instagram to document like my horse journey and my para-dressage journey, ultimately hoping to get to the Paralympics someday. Don't know if that's still my future, but that's the like intention, the purpose that I had for it. And then it just kind of grew into this bigger thing. I feel like I was really able to teach people how someone with a disability lives and how they adapt to life and adapt to sports too, because para dressage is the para version of dressage. And I had this series called Technical Tuesdays where I would show like how I modified my saddle, my riding, my leg to fit my needs as an amputee. And so it was really cool. So I think I really was able to connect with people on that level, people wanting to learn about people not like themselves and to advocate for myself as someone with a disability. And so I'm unfortunately not riding horses anymore. Maybe someday, but now it's really just become a space to share my life and everything that I'm going through because while I'm an amputee, like there's still so many layers to me. I'm dating as a 27-year-old in this crazy world. I'm a cat mom. Animals are really important to me. I'm a Christian. Like God is so important to me and like putting him first in my life. And I'm also like real though. I definitely try to share the ups and downs. I just watched Apple Cider Vinegar on Netflix, and it's all about Belle Gibson and how she, you know, was a con basically online. And after watching that, like I think now it's even more important that people are authentic because and like even me, like if I see someone and I like think they're fake, like I'll look them up. I want to know what's really going on. So I think with me and my social media, I want to make sure that like what I put online is the same as what you get in person. And so it's been such an honor to have the platforms that I have and to do what I've done. I know so many people don't get to experience that. And so I'm just honored and try to do my best with it.
Yeah, no, I think it's remarkable. And I think the thing that you're right. And like I said, I've looked at your feed and you're like the same. I mean, I don't know you that well that I'm in your space every day, but from having talked to you the few times that I've done and met you in person, you are very much like the same character in and out of that. And I think
Thank
that's
you.
what makes it so like real and people like that, right? Like it's so crazy for me because it's so hard. I'm a perfectionist and it's like the root of like all evil, right? And so I'm so excited to say this. I can actually say this on your episode. I just last night finished building out a program. I finally finished it last night. Like when you are a perfectionist, Alyssa, you do not, I mean, for anybody out there that is a perfectionist that gets this, I have been working on a program for 3 years now. Like I've been building something for 3 years and I
Dang.
started this last micro niche thing in July. And I finally yesterday walked in, told my husband, you're not going to believe it. I finished it. Like it's built. Like I can
I
actually
love that.
tell the darn thing it's built. Okay. But the reason I'm telling you this is because part of the program is all about these blocks. And one of them in there is like imposter syndrome. And it's also about perfectionism, right? And it's so hard. Sometimes we get hung up in being in imposter syndrome and then perfectionism that it's very hard to be authentic and real. That's why I'm bringing this up because like this is something I wrestle with all the time. I feel like it's like you want to be authentic and real, and then I feel like an imposter in my own
You still want
skin.
to put your best face forward because
Yeah,
it's your social
like
media.
Yes, or I want yes, or I feel like I got to be perfect. And it's so funny because when I do things that I spend a lot of time trying to perfect everything, it like doesn't do anything. And then when I just do something stupid, like I put no energy into it, all of a sudden people like it, and I'm like, maybe I should just drink.
I feel the same way. Like sometimes like I'll put like effort into like a TikTok video or an Instagram video and it'll do so poorly and then I'll do a video that took me like 2 seconds, took no thought, and it'll get like millions of views. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Are you
Right.
kidding me? And it's kind of frustrating, honestly, because like then it's like, well, why am I gonna put work into something that the algorithm or whatever doesn't appreciate? And so it's a struggle for sure, but obviously, I don't think the little videos can go viral without the bigger videos being there to help support it, you know?
Yeah.
So it all makes sense. It all works together.
Yeah, and I think it just really comes back to that people need to relate. They've got to relate on some level, to whatever it is that you're going through, or they need to see that it makes you a real human being. And that's what I think, because I think so much of social media, this is such a good I think I had no idea where this is going to go, but this is such a good conversation on the social media topic, because
Yeah.
we see all these influencers and they look so perfect across their feeds all the time, right? Like
Yeah.
everything just looks a certain way. And then you're like, what are they really like underneath? And I always say the reason mine looks the way it does is because I'm just too lazy. I'm just too lazy to deal with it every day. Like if that was all I was doing every day, I would. That's why I always you see my podcast clips, because for me that's easy to do. I can repurpose that stuff, and you're really kind of seeing
Yeah.
me in the human and flesh when I'm doing that, because this is how I am, like all the time. So I think that the big message here is just this relatability and authenticity, and that's what you do. You show the good, the bad, all of it. And I think that's what people really want to connect with is, and you've been doing it long enough now that you got this base of people that have been following you, all this,
Yeah.
and they're watching your journey, even as a woman, a young adult evolving.
Yeah, and I think for me too, it's just like a good reminder of like where I've been and like just to see like it's weird to look back and like see like all my old posts and stuff and be like, wow, like if only she knew, or like, like, oh, she had no idea that like this cool thing was gonna happen, And so, and really like at the base of it is authenticity. Like there's no way that I believe I don't think I would have gotten where I am today, or I would even grow into the person that I've become if it weren't for holding myself accountable to that authenticity that I want to see in other people as well.
Yeah. And so, somebody listening to this, because I think influencer marketing is a big thing. And the thing is, there's so many of them out there. It's kind of like coaches. There's like so many. I cringe when I hear that word, because I'm technically a coach, but I tell people I'm a success architect. And the reason I say that is because I have a lot of modalities. I'm not just one type of coach, meaning I'm not just a life coach. I can business coach. I can also health coach, because I'm certified in keto and supplement training as well. So I have a lot of
Awesome.
modalities. And so when people ask me all the time, I hate to just say, well, I'm a coach, because then people are like, oh God, what kind of volleyball coach, or like what time, what? But when I tell people that I'm a success architect, then the question comes up. They go, what is that? What does that mean? And then that
Yeah.
leads into really the work that I do, which is helping people work through subconscious blocks and create that with the new framework that creates sustainability. So what does that
Yeah.
look like? That depends on where they come in. Are they coming in because they want to work on their business? Are they coming in because they want to work on their relationships? Are they coming in because they want to work on their health? Underneath, the main thing is all the same. It doesn't really matter, because the work that I'm doing is here. It's all in us. So it
Yeah.
affects all of this, but the way they meet in the door is here. I don't know where I was going with all this. I was going to tell you something about this because it was important, but this is how my brain does sometimes, Alyssa. It
I
gets,
love it.
it goes off on a tangent. It'll come back to me. I think it was, we were getting influenced. I know where it's going. It's about influencer marketing. And so there's so many of us out there. And I think there are people that do things from a really honest perspective, right? Like they're doing things because they really want to share and they really want to help people and they have an honest perspective. And then there's people that are just out there that somehow got lucky or somehow hit the right thing. It's like I was watching something on TikTok the other day about the top 10 influencers in TikTok, and they were talking about these people, and I can't even tell you the names of them, but I went and looked them all up. because I'm like, I gotta see who they're talking about. Number one TikTok content, influencer. And the one dude is like, I don't know how she got on, how she got way up there because she was just lip syncing videos, and I'm like, okay, I
Yeah.
guess she got up there because she was lip syncing videos, I guess. I mean, if that's what, works. But
Yeah.
I think what you're doing is a little bit different because I think you're really showing what it's like to live with a disability. And I think that that gives people perspective. You know what I mean? It allows them because people don't understand what they don't know. And
Yeah.
when they don't know, they tend to admonish it. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah. They're
disregard
scared of
it.
it.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
scared. Exactly. They're scared of it because they don't know what to do, right? And that's one of the things I have always said. I had a guy on here a few weeks ago that I released. He's like an 81-year-old man. Neat story. You can look him up. He's called the question mark guy. He is for like 50 years been helping like poor people get grants, basically. Maybe not even poor people, just
Okay.
people get grants that the government's already giving away. They don't know about. And he wears question marks all over his suit and he spikes his hair and wears these like cool glasses. Like
I
he's the
love it.
guy that if you walked in the airport, you would stop to look at him. He's been doing this
Yeah.
for 50 years, right? And
That's
so he
fun.
was talking about how, like, people would be like, who is that guy? And the kids would love it, because they see the guy.
Right.
Now he has heart suits he's wearing. They have hearts on them. But
Oh,
anyways, we were talking about, being bold, being authentic, being true to yourself, and being okay being different. And we were also talking about how people don't embrace differences in people a lot of times until they get to understand it. And so I think that's good about what you're doing because you're helping people understand that just because you're this way, it doesn't mean you can't function and you can't ride horses. Hello.
I know.
Right?
Yeah, I definitely agree with you, and I think that that's kind of more of what my like social media has turned into, really like teaching people about like my life with a disability. And like even outside my social media, I work with this one nonprofit called To Be Like Me, and we have kids come to like our center and they go through all these experiences where they get to learn about people with disabilities from people with disabilities. And so I think that has been so life-changing because, I can talk in a room full of kids that don't know anything about being an amputee. Some kids, like, as they walk in, have called me like alien, weird. They've told me I'm scary, like, as they're walking into the experience, right? And so then to be able to talk to them and explain to them, like, hey, I don't look like you, but that's okay. That's this is my normal. This is how I live my life. I need these things to help me walk and live a good life. And even though my life might look different, it doesn't mean that I have any less of a life, don't have good things, don't have like all this stuff. And you can really see like it's not a place of like hatred, it's a place of like ignorance, that they just like don't know what they don't know, like you said. And then just to kind of see like all their brains like turn on as they're like listening to all of our stories and just like get it. And then I'm not being called weird, I'm not being called alien or scary. They just know like, hey, she's different and that's okay. Like it's okay if she doesn't look like me. And so really just trying to do that with social media too, because I get so many comments and messages, telling me things like that, telling me really rude things about my disability. And I think like I always tell like kids this, like I did not choose this for myself. I did not choose this. If I could have been born with, five fingers, all my limbs, I would have chosen that. I would not have chosen this for myself. But obviously, I have no control over how I was born, how I was made. And so, at some point, you can either accept it and use it to live a better life and to live above your disability. Or, and like I've seen with many, many amputees, they just get sucked into it. They get depressed, they get sad, and then they get overweight, and then they can't wear prosthetics and they can't live a full life. And this isn't like a weight thing, but
Right.
it's something I have learned being an amputee. Like, you have to be healthy, right? You can't wear a prosthetic if you're not healthy. You can't use it to the full extent if you are not taking care of yourself. And that's going to start with like mentally and with like how you come at it like with your heart. And if you're not in a good place with your disability, I get it. Like I've had so many struggles with it. I tried to commit suicide when I was 9 because I was getting endlessly bullied at school. Like I have struggled with so many thoughts and so many things, and but again, like I just have to remember, like I didn't choose this. It's okay that this happened to me, but I can't live like this. Like I cannot stay in this because it's not healthy, and it's not. And if I was able-bodied, like I wouldn't be thinking these thoughts, right? I'd just be living my life. It'd be all grand. And so, like, why not, even with a disability, live my life with the mindset of an able-bodied person that, like, I can do everything. It's okay. Like, I am who I am. So, I
Yeah.
went on a tangent, but
No, it's good. You were giving me chills because I'm thinking about like so many times, like, um, we get so consumed in our like and this is in no way to diminish. I never like to diminish anybody where they are because I can only imagine what it's like living in your condition. But I was telling my husband the other day that I have a medical condition that I have to live with every single day. And it's not a physical, like on the outside appearance kind of thing. You don't see it, but it's a digestive biliary disorder that affects my quality of life every single day. And what I mean by that is pretty much every time I eat, at least 1 to 2 times a day that I eat, I'm going to feel some pain
Mm.
inside. And they ended up doing a procedure. They went in and snipped something in there because basically what happens is I have bile that goes back up into my liver and my pancreas, and if it goes up in there, it can it feels like gallbladder attacks, but it can also wreak havoc. So they did a procedure to try to relieve it, and it worked for a while, and then it didn't work. But when they did it, I got pancreatitis. So we don't
Mm.
want to have to do it again because now that I've had pancreatitis, it's like pneumonia. Like once you have it, you're
It'll
always
come back. Yeah.
you could get it. So basically, I work with a functional doctor. I've been working with a functional doctor for the last year. I go do blood work like every 3 months, get my blood work checked to see how my liver's doing, how my pancreas is doing. And I have to eat very, very low carb. Like I have to micromanage. And it's not even so much so that like I can eat something one day and it doesn't bother me. The next day, it's going to bother me. I cannot peg it like what it is. But the reason I'm
Mm.
telling you this is because people don't get it. They don't understand it. They think that you go in and you get a procedure and that's the end of it and it's over and you're just normal and you're not. They don't know what you're going through and what you're walking through. But
Yeah.
anybody that's going through something has moments where they're going through those things you're talking about, where you're frustrated, you're depressed, you're irritated. Why do you get stuck with this? Why were you stuck with this? Like, right?
Yeah.
I told somebody that the other day. I said, there's been a lot of things in my life from a very early age on. I have two medical diagnoses that are rare. I'm somehow convinced they're connected. One's a nerve condition and one's that. But I'm convinced that somehow they are connected. I have two, but they're rare. Like very few people get them. So my point to all of this is that when you're going through something, yes, it is hard, and people often, because they're not in that, don't walk the shoes of it and can't relate to it. And so I just want to, I guess, say to you that just basically, recognize that yes, this is a real thing for you every day that you're having to live with, and commend you on your continued
Mm.
purposeful and mindfulness of taking care of yourself in that process, because I
Thank
can only
you.
imagine how hard that is sometimes. And kids can be cruel. Humans, their adults are cruel, and the kids learn it from the adults. So, it's I don't do very well with I'm not good with bullying. It just makes me crazy. And I often believe that kids learn this stuff from watching adults do these behaviors. And so I'm glad that you're willing to go in and stand up and have those conversations and get people to understand what you're going through so that they can remove some of that barrier. And that's my soapbox for the day.
Yeah, no, I love it. And honestly, like all it is just like breaking off a stigma, right? People just think all these stereotypes about disabled people because beyond that, they haven't wanted to learn more. They haven't wanted to seek the truth. And so to be able to break those stigmas off and just really be like, well, that's right for some, but not for all, or that's right in this case, but not. And so Yeah, it's honestly been really fun. Like I really enjoy like teaching people about my disability and just I think just seeing like the moment where like the light bulb goes off and they realize that like, oh, like she's just like us. She has cats. She likes the
She's
color
different, but
blue,
she's still like us. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's so true. And I think the more you put yourself out there, the less you get offended by the like sometimes every now and then, and I'm sure you when you were talking about getting messages, I don't get near the messages that you're getting, but every once in a while I get some hateful, stupid. I'm just like, you know what? Goodbye. And I know a lot of times people talk about any press is good press. I maybe I don't want it. I just
Blake
don't
Lively
want
is not having good press right now.
it. Huh?
I said Blake Lively is not having good press right now,
Oh, I
and
know.
I
Yes.
don't think it's gonna help her at all. Sometimes
Yeah.
bad press is bad press.
Exactly, exactly. And I realize when you get like that, you can't really control all of that stuff. But I worked with a mentor for 2 years, and he was big on, he would say, you are creating your environment. You're creating the environment that you want to put out there. And he never wanted to be big, so he always would kind of say, I wasn't going to allow that to happen. Like I said, I realize that when you get out there, it gets impossible to control a lot of that stuff. But right now, I'm small enough that I can still keep control of what kind of energy is flowing through my content and stuff. So I
Yeah.
think it's remarkable that you go through that, that you do that. And but I think the big message here is really as an influencer, anybody, whether you're big or small, and you're dealing with negative feedback that's coming in, you really have to separate yourself from that and say, you know what? This is their story, not mine. I don't know what's going on in their
Yeah.
world that they got to be like that, but that is not mine, not my
Yeah. And
focus.
yeah, and I'll say like when I was younger and social media was like just starting to pop, I definitely responded to all those comments, just saying like, oh my gosh, like how could you say that? You're so wrong, like trying to defend myself, right?
Right,
To someone that I'm undefendable to. They've already made up their mind that I am weird, whatever negative thing. And so honestly, now I think I've gotten a lot better about just kind of ignoring it and not responding to like those kinds of comments and making sure I'm only responding, like you said, like create the environment we want. So responding to comments that are, kind and all this stuff. I don't mind comments that are asking questions as long as it's like in a respectful way. If it's
right,
just, a straight up hate comment, or if someone is asking a question in a rude way, to be able to correct them and be like, hey, this is not how you should be asking someone with a disability this question, so being able to teach people still. So I try to have a lot of grace and mercy for people as the Lord has had with me, and just really try to come at from the perspective of like this person is hurting and they are lashing out. Because I've done the same thing. Like, hey, buddy, I've been there, and it's really hard to get to a better place. And I feel like I'm in that place. I still struggle sometimes, obviously. Like I'm not a perfect human being, but I definitely try to go at it, react to it like with that attitude. And then also just making sure like I'm drawing the line on what is acceptable and what is not. Like I have blocked many people just because their comments are just so putrid and hatred. And
yeah,
like I don't want to see that. And I don't need to see that.
right,
And I think with social media, what's so weird about it is, especially if you're like getting negative comments, like it can really seep into you. And because like, I share my whole life on social media, so much of like my interactions and friends are on social media. So like I really take it seriously. Then I have to remember like these people don't have my phone number, they don't have my address. This is
right,
all the access they get to me, and that's all I'm going to allow them. And so, I think if you're big on social media, not that I'm like big, but like you really have to be able to separate like the business side and the personal, because, at this point, like it's a business for
right,
me. And while I still want to be authentic and personable, like I need to be able to detach myself and go to the people who are in my inner circle that I have allowed access to me, because I know that they're gonna nurture me and take care of me. The people that hate me and are, vile in their comments, they don't care about me. So they don't they don't get to have access to me in that way. And so I think once I really like separated it, it has become a lot easier to deal with because I know that like I do have people that care about me, and those are the people that, have my address, my phone number, like they have the real access to me. And while these people, I guess, kind of have like a false sense of access, like I feel like I'm pretty accessible online. And so, but I like there's still things that I'm not going to allow for my own health and longevity of my social media to ultimately help people and bring awareness to people with disabilities.
It's good, Alyssa. Thank you for sharing. No, I think that's great. And I love that you said separating the personal from the business, because that's exactly what you got to do. You really have to remove, understand that this is a business. This is me as a human being. And I think there's so much to be said about that. We don't have to take any more time on that, but other than just to say that, yes, I think the word I'm looking for is you start to become unoffendable. Don't
Yeah.
allow people to offend you. I think the more you build your confidence and you know what you're doing and you're grounded in your purpose and all of that, I think it becomes easier
Yeah.
to recognize that I'm not doing anything wrong. There are, as you said it, vile people out there, and they're all shapes and form. And I get amazed. I think we sometimes cross the line because we want to talk about like free speech, and I'm all for free speech. I think we should have a right to say what we say, but it doesn't mean you're not an ass. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because there's some things you shouldn't say to people. There are some things that
Oh,
you can say a lot of things to people, but I think you can do it in a way without being vile and nasty and hateful. And a lot of times I think people confuse the two with that. We should be allowed to say it. You're right. You should be allowed to say that. But again, it doesn't mean that you're a nice person.
yeah, like human decency. And I think the thing is with social media, like everyone's a keyboard warrior, right? Hiding behind a keyboard. But like,
Yeah.
would these people actually say it to my face? Absolutely not. They
Right.
would. They
Right.
wouldn't. And so, and just to talk about like offensiveness really quick, like I don't mind being offended if it is to make me like a better person. Like I feel like recently, like I get offended all the time. Like, from the Lord, like if I do something, he's like, whoa, why are you doing this? Like, this isn't great. Or, getting offended by people who I have asked to hold me accountable for things. Like, I'll be offended in that way. And I kind of enjoy being offended. I don't want to be the same person I was yesterday. I want to get better. I want to be a better person. And I can see that, like, I have a lot to work on. I really do. But I'm better today than I was yesterday, last week, like leaps and bounds. And so I think getting offended by the right people
Right.
is really beneficial. Getting offended by, like you said, the people on the internet, like I don't
Yeah.
pay attention to it. I don't get offended anymore.
Yeah, good for you. I think it's good. And thanks for sharing all that. Anybody listening to this, it's in this space, or, maybe an up and rising creator. And I know a lot of, people, anybody's doing podcasting, anything. This is all really, I think, relevant information because they're trying to build bases and they're trying to work through putting themselves out there and being real and authentic. So this has all been really good. I'd love to ask you kind of maybe a couple fun questions about like some of the type of projects. You don't have to tell us anything that's kind of in the secret because I know those are kind of hidden, but maybe some of the things that you've been able to work on as an influencer so that maybe somebody listening can be like, oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah. Well, you and I met, I was doing a little brand deal for Rover. And I had been sitting with Rover for I think like 6 months at that point. I have stopped pet sitting for Rover just because I was gone all the time, and I got a second cat and I really just wanted to be home to kind of help acclimate her and stuff. So I've taken a break and don't want to go back to it, but we'll see. It was amazing for the time that I had it, and it obviously like it got me a brand deal. It got me to meet you. Like so many good things came from it. So I really enjoyed that. And then I really enjoyed working with Kohl's. I worked with them I think 2 years ago, and I did like a 3-month partnership with them and got to make videos like of their clothes and things like that. And then
Fun.
I went to a fashion show in New York with them too, and it's called Runway of Dreams, and it's like a disability inclusive fashion show. And so like being a part of that was really cool. I wish I could have walked for them last year, but they said no. Maybe this year. So I think just like being able to work with these brands and brands that are like wanting to get into the disability space, I think that's something that like now as I'm thinking about like what do I really want my brand to be and to mean, like I really want to work with brands who are getting into the disability space because so many people are disabled, more than we even know. And it's so funny talking to kids because, I always say I was born with my leg, which I was, but, I tell them majority of amputees lose their limbs later in life. I've heard so many crazy stories of how people have lost their limbs doing everyday things. And like it can happen to you. Anyone at any point can become disabled. And so I think knowing that and like having lived with a disability, it just made me treat people kinder because like you have an invisible disability, I can't see it, I don't know it. And so it's like everyone else that I interact with, I don't know what disability they may or may not have, whether it's, physical or even like mental, like I have ADHD, I know people with dyslexia and autism and all this stuff. And like those are disabilities too, right? Because the world is not made for people like those people. And so I, I now I'm getting lost on a tangent because I
No, it's
forgot
all
where
good.
I
We're
was going.
talking. I don't know where we're going either. It's all good though. I
Good.
think
Yes.
it's all good.
Good. I don't remember what my point I originally started out
Well,
with,
I
but
think we were just trying to hit on, I think the whole message here is really just hitting on home with the whole embracing. We were talking about what the different partnerships you've had in the
oh,
process.
that's
That's
right.
what we
Yes,
started
the
with,
ones
talking
I've
about the
loved.
partnerships. But I think it's really, like you're saying, the opportunities that it's brought you, embracing it. And there's so many messages to this. The part that, like, not understanding what other people, you never know what somebody's dealing with, I think, right? And showing compassion and empathy. So much talk about social media today. I think we did a lot of coverage on that, which I think is really good. But also, I think on the tail end of this is talking about, like what you just said here, the opportunities that it opened up for you in the process.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been fun. And I'm just really hope that I can continue to do it and do it at an even bigger scale than I have been doing it.
Yeah, I'm gonna. We'll keep. I know we're in touch, so I'm gonna keep following you, keeping up with with what you're doing, and who knows? Maybe someday you'll become a speaker and you'll get to go out and do a TEDx or get to go on a platform where you get to share your story and
Yeah,
continue to inspire other people.
that'd be amazing. And honestly, like I have always said, like I want to be a public speaker. So if this is the route to get there, then I'm just along for the
I'll hook you
ride.
up with people. I can get you
Yes,
in the
please.
right direction. I know lots of people in that space. So
Yes,
I have
please.
a guy I met recently that I met him at a networking event. And he works in cybersecurity, but he's also trying to be a public speaker on mental health. And I connected him with some people. I'm like, I got to connect you with this person. This person's a speaker, all different walks of life. I'm meeting with one this week that he was actually in federal prison. He was my number one podcast guest when I started my other show. He was the first guest I brought on, but he had been in federal
Wow.
prison. And while he was there, he had started reading like entrepreneur magazines and stuff and basically reformed himself. He became a personal trainer while he was in there, and then he got out. Now he's got a nonprofit and he goes around speaking and does all these workshops and stuff. Really neat guy.
That's incredible. Wow, that's
So,
awesome.
so if you need the connections, I can definitely hook you up with people in that arena that are doing speaking and are out there. And mine's a little different because I do it through this vehicle. I do it through the podcasting, and this is what I enjoy. I enjoy the conversations and learning about you guys and your journeys. I do want to ask you before we wrap this up, if our audience wants to find you, they want to follow you, they want to keep up with your journey and see where you're going and what you're doing, where do you want us to send them?
Yeah, that's a good question. All my handles are just Alyssa the amputee, super easy. So Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, which I'm terrible at, but want to get better at someday. So those are my main like platforms that I use, and so that's where y'all can find me.
Cool. We'll make sure too when we get this put together, we'll put the handle in there so people want to catch up with you. But yeah, definitely check her out. She's you're doing awesome things. And
Thank
like I said, I think your feed it's fun. I know you put it all out there, the good, the bad, everything. And I think it's fun to kind of just watch your journey as you're going through things. And I hope that as you continue to keep going, you'll keep finding things that come forward for you and you'll continue to be blessed. And, I always think when you work from the heart, sometimes it's rough in the middle, but as you continue to keep doing it, I really think in the end, it ends up working out and you get in the right place where you're supposed to be. So keep doing your thing.
thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Awesome. And of course, to our audience, we appreciate you. We hope that you found this episode informative and inspiring. And go follow Alyssa, keep up with her. And you know what to do. Hit that subscribe, like, share, comment, do all the things. Nice comments, though. Nice comments.
Yeah.
And go follow Alyssa, too. And make sure if you're following her, you give her nice comments, too. Nobody
Yes.
needs to. And with that, as I always say, in order to live the extraordinary, you must start. And every start begins with a decision. You guys take care, be safe, be kind to one another, and we will see you next time.